It's new moon in Pisces time, and that of course means it's the very end of the astrological year we're moving into. Let's talk about it. So Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. Pisces is the great cosmic ocean, the great mother ocean, the great infinite ethereal ocean of our absolute consciousness, and it's where everything ultimately has to dissolve and return back to. All the rivers flow to the sea. And on a psychological level, that often brings up experiences that we experience with this kind of Piscean energy of dissolving, dissolution, confusion, overwhelm, tiredness, fogginess, right? Think about being out at sea and there's only blue skies and blue ocean all around you. Or there's a very big storm or very big fog, and you're also covered by water in all directions, even in the air, right? That is very Pisces and Piscean. And that asks us, and especially our ego, our human personality, that which it struggles with the most, and that is letting go, to flow, to surrender, to trust, to give up control. Since it's the last sign also, and the end of the astrological year, we are already in this process anyhow, which the new moon in Pisces tomorrow just heightens, and you will already feel it now, of this immense letting go process of all the experiences, whether we are consciously processing them or not, of the past 12 months. Energetically, Capricorn, January 1st, is not really that much of a time where it's about this deep inner letting go, and it's like, wow, I'm really closing that chapter. This is what Pisces is for. This is what we are in. This is what the new moon in Pisces is also about. A few things, of course, to consider just from all the aspects and everything that is going on in the astrology chart, in the heavens around us, is that we've got the sun and the moon, of course, in Pisces. It's a new moon after all. But then also Saturn and Mercury and Neptune and the North Node. So that's 6 planets points in Pisces at the same time, giving this immense, strong, powerful focus on the Piscean energy. Neptune stands at the North Node. It's about the evolutionary learning curve and lesson, which the North Node always signifies, which is already Piscean and asks us to embrace, or rather let go of control and embrace the uncertainty of going with the flow and having to surrender, and the disappointment and disillusionment when we come face to face with our plans or the projection of what we saw, how life, how a project, how something, our relationship would unfold through linear time suddenly dissolves and flows in a completely different current than we anticipated or wanted it to. So that already brings up energies of grief and sadness and confusion. And since Neptune is together with the North Node, this is just heightened so much more. There's a great gift of miracles and tapping into divine time, divine alignment, and much greater healing, which sometimes the disillusionment or the confusion is a necessary precursor. We can't get to the healing and heal these deep inner parts within us that long for union and perfection, basically. That's 2 Pisces keywords, and we tend to project them out onto all kinds of things, people, relationships, identities, whatever. But the letting go and confusion of that not fulfilling itself like our ego, our mind maybe has played it out, has imagined it, can bring up a lot of grief as well. And grief, of course, is also that water which needs to flow of letting go of the past. Even if it was something that was beautiful or meant to be, a person leaving this physical plane that was close to us, a relationship ending, whatever it might be, that also brings up all of this potent water, where Neptune ultimately can bring us this healing, or rather that part within us can find healing, but only if we allow and embrace the totality of the fluidity of the emotional realm to have and run its natural course. And that current can't be controlled, and we can't sidestep that. If we try to do that, we're just dissociating and numbing ourselves and trying to avoid these deeper watery natures within us, which is of course also what Saturn and Pisces does a lot for a big part of humanity. Right? Just Saturn control, suppress, deny, shut away the Piscean realm. And so we see all of these issues of escapism and delusion and projection of ultimate meaning out onto so many things, right? Never have there been more drug deaths in Europe and North America than the last 2 years, right? It's a desire to escape physical reality, the burden and heaviness and weight of karma, the gravity that Saturn represents can feel too much for many people, right? But the deeper wisdom that Saturn, of course, asks us to embrace, especially also for those new moon in Pisces, is to just hold space so that the mysterious flow of Pisces, of the water, of the emotions, of the unfoldment of our life, can take and run its natural course without our interference. On the higher side, Saturn and Pisces, of course, allows us to bring also the potential for miracles, as in true manifestation of what we envisioned, to make it like in Pisces, right? It's our imagination and what we yearn for and what we can project. But with Saturn, we can also find the strength and the clarity and the discipline to make it real and tangible, to bring it down into physical time space and down to Earth. So both of these parallels are very active also for this new moon in Pisces, which of course is also a new moon, is a moment to seed energy into the field, to seed energetic seed points into the field, which is maybe even more important because we're moving towards these eclipses and these very dramatic changes over the coming weeks, with first Neptune and then also Saturn leaving Pisces in the next weeks and months, right? So there is this huge new frontier which we might all be feeling. There's immense changes ahead, but we can't fully Neptune, they're behind a veil. We can't fully see them yet. We can't fully know how they will play out yet. And that uncertainty can be so overwhelming, so exhausting, right? That's the other level with Pisces, is also the tiredness or exhaustion that we might feel. Yes, it might be psychological and emotional, but it often has a much deeper component, and that is really on the level of the soul. That there's a tiredness and exhaustion, letting go and realization of there have been patterns playing out here, maybe for much longer than just this singular lifetime. And no matter how much I might be sleeping or resting or eating well, I'll feel like I'm regaining that energy, right? So if you are experiencing that, it's very often a sign of like a much deeper process, which is really showing this things shifting on the soul level, but once again, we can't control them. The ego desire can't control them and can't push ahead. We might want it all now, right? Venus is in Aries, just about to go retrograde. We might want to do it all now or yesterday and charge ahead, but there's all of this energy drawing back toward and showing us like, oof, but not so fast. Keep your horses steady. It's like remembering, of course, also that Mars just turned direct, but he's also in Cancer. He also went from Leo fire to Cancer water. And the same with Venus, from fire Aries to Pisces water. And then Mercury will also be going retrograde from Aries to Pisces in a couple of weeks' time. So there will be a lot of revisiting what we maybe also are already processing or putting into the field or into our dreams and visions and unconscious yearnings at this very moment over the next coming weeks. Especially, of course, with Venus going retrograde. She'll go retrograde on Sunday from 10 degrees of Aries, where she's already standing now, all the way back to 23, I think 22 of Pisces, where she will hang out with Saturn for quite a while. So that will be interesting because it will be very challenging territory for relationships, which we also will be heading into here over the coming month of March and early April. Anyhow, I guess I'm just going to leave that here because it's not an energy to try to absorb too much information actually now. That's the last aspect I might highlight briefly, is that all of these planets in Pisces, right? The new moon happens on 9 degrees and the Neptune is on 28, 29 degrees. But the new moon, the sun and the moon are square to Jupiter. And Jupiter is, of course, the traditional ruler of Pisces, and he's in Gemini. And the new moon being on the square to Jupiter also showing like, all this mental fatigue and overwhelm of too much mental input, too many informations, which we might be able to process mentally, the Gemini area, but is a bit too much for us emotionally, right? Just scroll through social media and like you get confronted with 100 million things in every expression of humanity, from the worst to the best, within a span of a few seconds. And we can maybe mentally process that, or tell ourselves we can process that. But the Pisces area of our charts shows us, especially at this very moment, like, no, we can't. Our emotional body can't. We're not meant to hold and contain at all. We're only meant to hold and contain ourselves. And from there, we can regain a sense of trust and connection to spirit and deeper mystery of the unfoldment of time. But also a sense of the clarity of our own inner intuition, without comparing ourselves too much to the outside world or to others, but also staying centered in that intuition and keeping it clear, keeping that channel clear, so that not just information or data, Gemini, all the things people say, Gemini can confuse us there, but also so that all the deception and lies and illusions and manipulations, which is also Pisces area, Pisces energy, that we've been living through for so many years now, especially since 2020, on a world stage, on a geopolitical stage, and all of our social engagements and in the social fabric of reality, they've been just flooding us, right, with all of these twisted confusions, manipulations, half-truths. And if we don't stay centered to our own inner intuition, it's so much easier to get hoodwinked and to get pulled into something, or to believe the next big thing that's will be proclaimed any minute now, probably. The next thing you see on social media, the next thing somebody says to you on the street, right? And then the how our emotions are actually being targeted through that. It's not so much that the misinformation is clearly a mental one, but it's so much more an emotional game that is being played with humanity. And that is the Neptune and Pisces part also, these collective waters, and stirring them through emotional impacts, emotional triggers, through rage and anger and sadness and overwhelm, right? These are very, very easy emotions to elicit through very easy means, and they make us feel powerless. They bring us into that lower side of Pisces, where we feel victimized and we feel like we don't have agency, we can't contribute, we can't bring healing or service to the world, bring our own divine light to the world, because what's the point, right? So staying centered to our intuition does not just serve us to stop comparing ourselves and projecting whatever other karma and timeline another person, another soul is living through out onto us, and then judging us for it, but also so that the outside world, with all of its games and snares, can't catch us so easily, but so that we can live a life lived from spirit, lived from our own inner connection to spirit, with an open heart and with a clarity of mind and purpose with that. It's a rare gift. It's a rare blessing also to the world, because also then we don't feel like we need to escape reality so much, right? Saturn, Pisces, Neptune, to draw out, escape relationships, escape the burden, Saturn, and responsibility, Saturn, of emotional implications, right? It's like, oh, don't get too close, because we can be very avoidant, right? Pisces energy can be very avoidant, also avoidantly attached, where and how we try to get away from emotional engagement and responsibility is also a way of us trying to escape reality, right? So whether that's in our emotional level and our relationships, whether that's abuse of substances, or getting lost in la la land with digital media, or books or computer games or series or whatever it might be, or whether that's on the spiritual front, where you think, I'm doing so much healing work, but actually you're just projecting that meaning out onto another healer, onto another guru, out onto another person that will definitely help you heal this or that, or make you rich tomorrow. That's also all giving our inner authority away. That's Saturn and Pisces, right? Saturn is the inner authority. And in Pisces, it wants to really help us center that in our spirit, so that over the coming 30 years, when Saturn moves across the entire zodiac once again, through all the signs which are so much more worldly, so much more engaged with worldly matters, with material matters, with societal matters, that we can stay centered and connected to that inner authority in spirit, and not to anybody out there. But also, like I just said, not going into that avoidance trap of trying to escape reality. So the more we can bring in that light and live from that heart-centered connection to spirit and faith and trust, the more we can shine that light and bring that healing water out to the world and to the collective field, to our communities, and we'll feel less and less of an urge or desire, or just unconscious complex or mechanism to escape. It's like, oh no, this physical earth, this physical plane, I don't want to be here. These people, they suck, whatever it might be, right? The political sphere of this country, I need to get away. But to infuse the space that we're in with our healing light, so that we can feel more comfortable on planet Earth and have less of a desire or necessity to escape, ultimately, ourselves. Because that's the only thing we're ultimately running away from, would be our own self, our own emotions, our own inner soul, and where and how we have lived up to the expectations we have of ourselves, or where we haven't. Where and how we have stepped up to the immense expansion and fullness that our dreams and visions can hold. Right? The brightest skies that we can envision, they can become a reality through Pisces also. Or where we have not even allowed ourselves to dream that big. Right? All of these ways of avoidancy or escapism are all of the ways and where and how we actually try to get away from ourselves. And we think it's the outside world, we think it's that person, that relationship, that country, that political energy, whatever it might be. But in truth, so much of it deals with our own inner nature, and it's just a reflection of our own inner nature, of where and how we don't live in peace and trust and faith and within ourselves, and in the invisible guiding hand of spirit, of our soul, of our lives. So anyhow, thank you so much for listening. I hope you're resting well for this Pisces new moon. The next full moon will be quite something, right? It will be lunar eclipse in Virgo in 2 weeks' time. And then, yeah, middle of March to middle of April, or end of April, the next 2 months basically, will be quite a territory. So get all the rest you still can at this moment, because energies will get very funky, very intense, shifting a lot over the coming couple of weeks. So also there, center yourself within yourself, inside of your connection to spirit, and keep that as a treasure, as a hidden garden that you can use as an inner nourishment and an inner stability for whatever might come next. So thank you so much for listening, and see you soon. Bye bye.